The Manager of the Year nominations are in. There's only three of them, and before we start crying about why is Clement, why is Brendan Rodgers not been picked, let's look at the nominations first, shall we? Then we can rant and rave about why the Old Firm's not been picked. But anyway, there's no Old Firm. All right, Celtic fans. All right, he's died in '94. I know it's hard to accept, but deal with it. All right. But first off, we've got Derek McInnes, of course. Kelly sitting fourth in the league. Phenomenal season. They're going to be going, for people that don't know, they'll go straight into the Europa League qualifying, and then they're guaranteed to drop down to the Conference League. So yeah, that's a change for the previous seasons where I think it's to do with the new format. So yeah, that's good. You mean you're guaranteed from a Kelly perspective to have at least 4 matches in Europe. And I think Kelly, I mean, I say they could do serious damage in Europe. I mean, obviously Hearts are guaranteed, but you know, over the past couple of years, we've seen teams fall, obviously, in the qualifiers. I think Kelly could easily qualify for the Conference League. I just think they're a very well organised, well structured team that could easily provide an upset. See the way we saw like St Johnstone a few years ago provide a few upsets and, you know, good performances against the likes of Lask and Galatasaray. I see no reason why Kelly couldn't do that, but here, maybe I'll be proven wrong. I think they need to avenge the Connor Clay Nomads that's been hanging over them for the past couple of years, obviously with Steve Clarke. But anyway, Derek McInnes, does he deserve this award? Well, let's get to his former assistant, shall we? Because Tony Docherty is on this three-man shortlist, of course. Great season for Dundee, sitting sixth in the top six. You know, the objective would have been just to stay up. He's done that and then some. Real possibility as well for European football. And honestly, I think Dundee will beat St Mirren. I just don't see St Mirren doing it. I don't. Because I look at Dundee and I'm thinking I think Dundee will beat St Mirren, and I think that might just be enough. St Mirren obviously played Rangers there. Last game of the season is against Celtic, so you know you think if they're going to pick up any points, it's going to be in the next 3 games. But for Tony Docherty, man, great season. You know, it's a bit of a shame that the pitch at Dens Park has kind of overshadowed the great job that they've done. But here, that's a Dundee problem. It's not really the manager or the player problem at the end of the day. And then Big John McGlynn, Falkirk boss, he is the third contender for SPFL Manager of the Year. Even though we all expected Falkirk, right, to win the league, I believe there's only one more round to go. They're undefeated. They could go the whole season invincible. They are a full-time team in a part-time league at the end of the day, right? I don't want to heap so much praise on them, but it's still a great season. But Falkirk shouldn't even be in the Championship or League. They should be in the Premiership, man. But they're not, sadly, for them. But yeah, I mean, would I complain if he won this? No. Who do I think will win it? I think Derek McInnes will win it, and I think it would be rightfully deserved. Absolutely. Now, let's move in to the real talk. Let's move in to why Brendan Rodgers and Philip Clement ain't on this list. Well, let's start with Brendan Rodgers, shall we? He inherited a treble winning team. Celtic fans can cry that the squad is shit and they've had injuries, right? Every team has its injuries. Celtic, yeah, had injury to Atati out for a long period. Carter Vickers was out for a few periods at a time. But, you know, injuries aside, they've not been good enough. They've blown a 7-point lead to a Rangers team, right? That was in DEFCON 5. It was sinking like the Titanic Rangers, alright? Now, have they turned it around recently? Celtic, absolutely. They're 3 points ahead. Hell, they could leave this season with a double. But they went out at the earliest possible round in the League Cup. A disappointing Champions League campaign. Rodgers has lost a lot of games. They've not played well in a lot of games. It's a far cry away from what Ange was doing. And here, you know, it's all good talking about the league and also the Scottish Cup. There's no guarantee. Celtic still could lose both of them. And for that reason alone, that's why he's not on this list. Now, let's look at Clement, shall we? What's caused Clement this is the 2 games against Ross County and Dundee. If Rangers were top going into the nominations being announced, I think he would have easily been on this list because of the turnaround. But because of Rangers bottling it in those two games, and it looks like they're not going to win the league most likely, that's why he's not on the list. Even though they won a League Cup, right? Even though they could win a Scottish Cup, he's not on this list because of the Ross County and the Dundee games. I think that's it. I don't think you can complain, right? If you're a Rangers or a Celtic fan about neither being on the list now. If Clement had beaten Ross County and Dundee and was still not on the list, yes, you have a valid argument. If Rodgers, never bottled a gap, right, and was actually playing good football, yeah, he would absolutely deserve to be on the list. But they don't deserve to be on the list for me, and I think the three that they've picked are the best three on the list. So that's where we're going to leave the video here. Player of the year was yesterday, manager of the year was today. I think this is a bit closer and harder to tell, but yeah, you can't complain for the Old Firm. You really can't. It must be the first time in years since neither was on the list. But if you know, leave it in that wee comment section down below.